So let's talk a little bit about the strengths and weaknesses of this system, because I do think it has both things. Now, one of its great strengths in the marketplace is that it's just a catchy concept. People have caught on to this term, caged, and they understand that it's a kind of almost like a gimmick, that it has this little name that's caught on and people really like it. That's probably why there's so many materials available on it and so many people talk about it. Secondly, it's very comprehensive. It allows you the ability to understand the fingerboard completely. And it's kind of easy to understand conceptually. Hopefully, I've just been able to explain the concept to you in just these last few minutes. And the other thing about it is that it can be applied to various degrees of complexity. So we could have just said, okay, now you've learned the cage system, you know these 5 chord positions. Or we can say, then you learn the C chord in the C fingering, and then the C7 in the C fingering, and then the C minor in the C fingering, and then the C chord in the A fingering, and then the C7 in the A fingering, and then the C minor in the A fingering. We may go through a certain amount of that stuff, but it's a strength of the system that it's just such a simple organizational concept that you can carry it out to be an incredibly complicated, very comprehensive system, or you can keep it kind of simple and kind of work off of it as a basic skeleton of the fingerboard. Okay? Its weaknesses are, to me, that it tends to make people have a kind of rigid concept. I can play out of this position, or I can play out of this position, or I can play out of this position, or I can play out of this position. And the guitar actually offers you so much more flexibility if you break away from these rigid little 5 positions, okay? So there's that segmentation, which actually is a strength in the beginning and then later can become a kind of weakness of the system. And if people look at it in that rigid format, then that's what happens, I think. And in that sense, it's kind of limited in scope. It's a very basic, limited system. So what we're going to try and do in this video is we're going to try and understand it at its basic, limited level. And then we're going to try to go beyond that to help you understand methods of bridging the gap between these positions on the neck. So with that, we'll get down to business here. And one other thing I want to say before we do that is that, and this is true for some of the DVDs I've done for the Stefan Grossman's Guitar Workshop, that you have to recognize that I'm here in a way to teach you the math. Some of the videos we've talked about turning that mathematics into music. And there's a lot more to music than just mathematics, but mathematics is part of the deal. So I want you to recognize this for what it is. It's not a whole system of playing music. It's a system of understanding the fingerboard mathematically, in a sense, so that you can use your imagination and some physical techniques to turn this mathematics into music. But first, the mathematics.